It's the most wonderful time of the year. Hey guys, it's Aaron back with another review for you. Today is day 11 of my Halloween month, and today I'm talking about the film Nosferatu. I've got my notes. Let's dive right in. All right, you guys can understand me. So that was a little hard to understand, right? Well, the reason I did that was because today's film is actually a silent film. And for those of you that haven't seen a silent film, one of the beauties of it is you actually have to, the actors would have to emote more and, kind of do this or a number sometimes to maybe get their point across because you couldn't hear anything besides the music and then they'd have subtitles on the screen. But with that being said, I'll actually really go over it. Nosferatu, directed by F.W. Murnau, released um, March 4th, 1922 in Germany and June 3rd, 1929 in the U.S. Directed by F.W. Murnau, like I said. Starring Max Schreck, Gustav van Wangenheim, Greta Schroeder, Alexander Granich, Ruth Landshoff, Wolfgang Heinz, and it is based off Dracula by Bram Stoker. But when this came out, they actually weren't allowed to use they had to change some of the stuff because it is said that it wasn't called Dracula to avoid copyright, but the original German intertitles acknowledge Dracula as the source. So I don't really know why they decided to call it Nosferatu. I think Nosferatu means vampire, but specifically why they couldn't call it Dracula, I don't know. But it is what it is. Um, but the plot is Thomas Hutter is sent to Transylvania by his employer, estate agent Herr Knock, to visit a new client named Count Orlok, who plans to buy a house across from Hutter's own home, and Hutter realizes some odd behavior with Orlok once he gets there. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the plot's really simple. He just goes over there to try to get him to sign the deeds to his house, and hey man, you got your new place to live. Um, so the film is incredible. It is actually very, very good, especially for such an early interpretation of Dracula. I talked earlier in the year. My first one actually was Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and yes, I acknowledge that one's incredible and all that. This one is just as well. It's very, very good, and so there's a couple things that really jump out to me in the film initially as to maybe why this wouldn't be the greatest, so to speak, because, like I said, with silent films, you have to sometimes even over exaggerate your actions to get your point across. And the lead actor in this, the one that plays Hutter, appears to be stoned most of the time. There's this part where he's, when he's first getting ready, he's like up and he's smiling and just, like, oh, hey, ha, ha, ha. And it's very, if any of you guys watch anime, it is very much like an anime character. And for those of you that don't watch anime, if you've seen the South Park episode of Pokemon and they're just over exaggerated and like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh, that is kind of how he is. But so there's that, and then when he's first going to the when he's first on the way to Orlok's place, he stops in at a tavern to have a drink, and he comes in and he just dunk, hits the bar top like that, and then he tells everyone where he's going, and they all over here and they're like, oh my gosh, you can't go there. But he the whole time is just like, oh yeah, hi. So I think this guy got into the shrooms or something before he decided to start the film. And you guys may not think that when you watch it, if you watch it, but he seems very like, oh ha. But it's enjoyable. It doesn't take away from the film, so I'm not really taking that against it. And that might have been the direction he was given, or he might have just been stoned off of his mind. I don't know. But so that's just something I saw that I just wanted to point out. They um so the film at the time has been noted for themes regarding, and maybe it's still to this day, but the film has been noted for its themes regarding fear of the other, which would be like, I'm assuming witchcraft, different things like that, and also possible anti-Semitic undertones. Now, I didn't see any of that in the film. That nothing jumped out at me heavily. If there are anti-Semitic things, I'm not aware of them. I didn't, like I said, I didn't pick up on any. If you have seen them, maybe you could tell me because I just didn't see it. That's just something I read when I was doing research on the film. But you know, maybe there is a reason why they said that. Anyway, so when Hutter is actually going to Orlok's castle, he's in a carriage, and when he's going, he looks outside, and he's going down this the road to get to Orlok's castle, and it honestly looks like the fields that he looks out to have been hit by an atom bomb. Um, the all the trees are barren, but they still look all creepy, like Halloween style. The ground just I mean, it really just looks like it's just this desert now, this demolished, you know, crap land after some horrible incident, and that's kind of what it looks like. Um, but the he when he this is what I've never understood why they do this, and I don't remember if it's in the book or not. So it might be, and I'm just remembering it wrong. But in many of the adaptations of Dracula and Nosferatu, he is the carriage driver is actually Nosferatu or Dracula, depending on what you're watching. And he doesn't really try to hide himself. He has this like Robin Hood style hat on, but I mean, you can clearly tell who it is. Um, Now, you could argue that Harker can't see it because he's in the back and just kind of looking at him from a side angle. But I mean, like I said, when they pull up to the castle, it's no doubt. I mean, you know who it is. I mean, heck, when they pull in and he first gives him a ride. But like I said, that might have just been. I mean, maybe it's intentional. Like I said, I read the book. I was obsessed with Dracula as a kid. I don't know if I mentioned that in my Dracula book, but I used to rent it from the local library all the time when I could. And I mean, I don't think I ever really sat down and read the whole thing page to page, but I think I read like the first 10 pages. So I mean, I think I would have gotten to that point. And I don't remember what it said about the cab driver, other than, I just know that there was a cab driver, but I don't remember if it looks like that. But so when they get to the castle, of course, he's like, okay, do you have the deed and the documents and all that stuff? And so he does, and he's signing it and all that, and he gets so he Orlok has prepared Harker dinner. I'm just gonna call him Harker, probably just to avoid confusion of myself and all that. But I mean the guy that is there to help him out, and he prepares him dinner and everything. So he's sitting there reading his um, documents and looking over the deeds and everything. And Harker's sitting there buttering his bread, and he cuts his finger, and he's about to you know get rid of the blood, and Orlok's all like, oh my god, no, 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 the precious blood. I mean, he flat out says like the precious blood, and it's like, okay, Gollum, back up. But it weirds him out, but not enough to, like, I mean, there aren't real red flags going off. And I don't know about you guys, but if somebody was just kind of odd, that might be a little red flag in itself. But like, if I cut my finger and their first response is to be like, let me have some of that precious blood, I'm gone. And not only that, but I understand you don't judge a book by its cover, don't judge by appearances, but Nosferatu, Count Orlok, looks creepy. Like, he doesn't look like Bela Lugosi, because Bela Lugosi has those intimidating eyes, and definitely he's not one to be trifled with. But overall, he just looks like a handsome, like well-to-do count, with the kind of a weird cape. But Orlok looks genuinely scary. Like, the way that they did, because I've seen Max Schreck, he doesn't look like um, Orlok at all. Well, I mean, he does a little bit because it's of course him, but I mean, but Orlok looks very like otherworldly, something that you would definitely be scared of and not want to find in the woods. I myself wouldn't want to find anything in the woods, but you guys know what I mean. He's very creepy. So I um it's funny that how much, because I know that it's supposed to show the level of trust that he initially has, and then gets rid of that trust because he gets freaked out by Orlok. But I mean, I was freaked out by him from the beginning. I mean, that's just, I understand you don't, judge a book by its cover, but I mean, sometimes the cover's still pretty scary. Um, they yeah, so after the first night, Orlok invites Hunter to sleep in a chair. And I'm not talking like a nice fancy, the recliner style. I'm talking like a chair. Like one of the old school ones. My dad used to have one, and if I slept in that thing, man, my back would be done. I can't sleep comfortably on a couch, so I can't imagine. And it's like you have this whole castle, this whole massive castle, and you're gonna make me sleep on this dinky chair. But Harker does. He's just kind of like, all right, I'll sleep on the chair, not thinking twice about it. I guess that's part of his contract, was to do whatever Orlok wanted, but whatever, it's fine. And so at some point during the night, Harker gets up and he looks down the hallway and he sees Orlok there just staring into his soul. And it is terrifying. It is scary. It's just one of those moments, and especially I think since it's a silent film, it's just a lot more. Even though the music's going, it's just a lot more scary because the atmosphere is what makes. That's the thing about silent films. It's not necessarily because the music that I've seen doesn't really um, match that well, but even if the music doesn't match very well, the you can just imagine it without music or mute it and see how the whole layout, the whole atmosphere, the whole production would be kind of, what would that be like? And so when you watch it, yeah, it's scary. I mean, this film is actually pretty creepy despite the music kind of off playing, because they had to use, this is another, like I said, it's a silent film, and they had to use music that was not copyright, that was free game for anybody to use. So a lot of times they would find the kind of like bar music stuff, and it didn't really match, but I mean, it's fine. But yeah, it's very, I think had the music not been the way it was, I think that would have been like one of the most terrifying things I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, it's creepy. It really is. And you're not really, because it's, in films like this, I think our brains are so programmed to be like jump scare stuff. And since it's really not, at least not in the way that the music works with the jump scares, I think that the music kind of takes away from that aspect. I mean, you can see it's still creepy. You could still be worried about it. But I think that the actual music that was chosen to go with this film is not the greatest in that regard, because I think it does take away from the um the jump scares and stuff like that. I mean, if that's, that doesn't necessarily have to be um anyway, I digress. But then we get to Van Helsing, and is he he is when we first see him, he is messing with Venus flytraps, and he is showing. I don't know if it's a colleague of his or just some Joe Schmo like myself would just be like, okay, whatever. And so he's showing him, and of course we see the fly go into the trap, and then closes up, and the guy kind of, oh, what's that? But the look that um the look that Van Helsing gives him is this look of like, didn't I tell you? Like, this shit's nuts. Like, and it was just very funny to see that, because he's just kind of like, hey, yeah, I see. Um, yeah, and it's very little things like that, are nice to see, because you can tell that obviously that FW Murnau knew what to do. I mean, because he knew this was going to be silent, but he also knew to use moments that could be over exaggerated with facial features and stuff like that, so you could be like, or whatever else you're going to do, because it's going to show in the final product, and especially when it's a time. And I think all the actors did a good job knowing, what to do and everything as far as that goes, because the Nina, the girlfriend, Harker's girlfriend, is very good at being like hypnotized, just in that trance, that the spell that Orlok has her under, and she has like the perfect like dead eyes, just like you know, oh, it was just kind of like in the Bela Lugosi version. It's just very very good, and I think that once again, I think it's just a testament. I think everyone understood the assignment. I think that F.W. Murnau did a good job at directing. I think it was written well. Um, I just think that overall, it's a very especially for the first of its kind. That's the thing you got to think about too. It's like the first Dracula film. So you know, and in some regard, not first necessarily, but it's one of the earliest horror films of this kind. So it's very interesting to see where we've evolved from now, but then looking back, like Jamie loves this film, and I do too. You know what I mean? So it's very cool to see where we started from, but then to see the kind of things that we bring with us now in today's horror films, and have still to this day that we take from films like this. It's just really amazing, and the fact that it all still works on the same level that it did back then. I'm sure back in the day it scared people to death. I mean, you hear stories about people when they first watched oh, Frankenstein, women passing out in theaters because they had just never seen anything like it. I'm sure that there's, not that I could find, so I mean, maybe not documented, but I'm sure that kind of stuff happened in this film as well, because it is just genuinely scary. It's nerve wracking from the beginning to end, because they do a really good job at keeping Nosferatu really in the shadows. I mean, he's there, but you don't really know much about him other than the fact he looks terrifying. And Max Schreck did such a good job that there's a whole film called Shadow of the Vampire, where it it's makes it look like, because I watched that before I think I had even seen Nosferatu, and it makes Max Schreck look like he could potentially be a vampire in real life. And I don't really know if like I said, I couldn't find anything research wise if there were real rumors of that, or if it's just he was just that big of a method actor that he just stayed in character the whole time. I don't know what the deal was, but Willem Dafoe portrays him as if he is a creature of the night. And you can see his what he was basing that on by watching Nosferatu. And I don't know if there was a real rumor that Max Schreck was potentially a vampire, or he just really got it, like he just got that far deep into his character. But like I said, it's just a very very good adaptation overall. I mean, the for what you get from the film, I mean, and like I said, it just did 100-year anniversary this year, and for being 100 years old now, and it to be as relevant and better than most probably of the horror films that we have today, that's a testament to how insanely amazing it is. And the fact that I'm sure that back in the day they were just trying to make the best movie they possibly could. I don't know if they thought, oh well, 100 years from now people are still going to be watching this and loving every minute of it, and it'll be a staple of Halloween. In my household it is, like Jamie and she loves it. We watch it all the time. It's just a very good, a very intense, and just a very well done film. Um, I didn't. Not that I saw anywhere was it. There were no like Academy Awards for it or anything like that. But this might have even been before the Academy Awards, so I might be like that. Might be why, because I feel like if people understood it, it would have swept the competition. But this is also horror we're talking about, so maybe people are idiots and don't appreciate the genre like they should, because everyone just assumes horror films are scary and bloody and gutty and blah 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 blah. And people that are horror fans like myself know that that's not the case. But people are dumb. What are you gonna do? I feel like I ran it off on that one quite a lot without any breaths. But anyway, guys, that is my review on Nosferatu. I will give this one a perfect 10 out of 10 because it just the way it holds up, the relevance to it, it's just check it out and see for yourself. You know, you can watch it for free on YouTube, Pluto TV, Tubi, and Prime Video. And it's an hour and something. It's not long, but check it out. Like I said, it's 100 years old. Oh, and there is a version on YouTube you can watch with speaking. Type in um, Nosferatu with sound, maybe. I don't remember, but there is a version you can watch where people have dubbed over the speaking parts and have made it to where it's like a movie that you and I would watch nowadays. But anyway, guys, that is my review for Nosferatu. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're enjoying my Halloween month so far. Like and subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll be back with another one coming soon. So, take it easy.